I joined with Transocean, and then just 3 years later was sitting as the senior dynamic positioning officer. So the one kind of in charge of the bridge right under the captain. Just a couple of years later, I was like 23 over in Africa, like running the bridge.
What do you tell your daughters if they're going to go into this field that's man dominated?
You go, girlfriend. Just walk into it like you own it. I belong here. It's just the balance of like doing everything that you can do, but then giving yourself grace that like some things are completely out of your control. During our transit from Trinidad to Cape Town, we had people on board that were installing RPG-proof shutters. We had barbed wire all around our deck. And so when we got up to Tanzania, we had the RPG-proof shutters installed. We had barbed wires all around our deck. We had guard boats that would have people on board the vessel with like their guns hanging out, like just circling our vessel while we were looking for oil in this area.
Welcome to another episode of Rebel Rootz. Of course, I have another badass female here. She is former bikini competitor, which is when I met her at Gold's Gym when we first moved to Wilmington. She is a mom of twins. She has real estate license. She has property with Airbnb. She is not captain, but she just runs big ass vessels. She's been on cruise ships, and I'm sure I am missing a bunch more of everything in there. But welcome, Brigitte.
Thank you. Thanks, Evonne. I'm excited to be on here. Excited to talk.
It's been a while since we've caught up. You no longer live in Wilmington. You are in Florida?
Yep. So actually, that's why I apologize. Like if everything looks boring behind me, but we just moved into our new house in Satellite Beach. So we're steps away from the beach, just moved in about like a little under 2 weeks ago. So still trying to get like the kids settled into school, trying to get everything. We haven't even fully moved everything out of our storage unit yet. We're just kind of enjoying the beach, enjoying the pool while we can right now, and slowly taking out everything that we need. But it's kind of funny. I joke, my husband's mom is going to be here in 2 weeks. And I'm like, we need to get the house ready before like a true adult gets here.
Or just assign her a to-do list that she can do when she gets here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're always bored. Moms are always bored. They always want something to do.
Something to do. I'm like, here's my full list. I have at it. So, but yeah, we're in Satellite Beach and really enjoying it so far.
Well, I want to get caught up to the present moment, but let's talk about you as a kid and tell me your upbringing. And the reason why I ask this question is because I always feel like there was something in our childhood that maybe was putting you into the direction of the path of where you are. And I always think it's fascinating to know who you were as a kid, if you were outgoing, if you were the silent one, if you were driving big pickup trucks when you were 5, I don't know. So give me the history.
I love it. Now that you say that, I was voted like most wild and crazy when I was in middle school. So maybe that was like my trajectory, like noticed at a very young age. But yeah, so I actually grew up in South Florida and we grew up right on the water. I've always been in love with boating, the beach, being on the water. When I was really young, we always surfed too. I have 2 younger brothers. And we surfed any chance that we could get. And I think we did it so much that we lived on the water. We could take the boat over to this one little surf spot. And I think my dad just got tired of always taking myself and my brothers out. So when I was about like 14 or 15, my dad taught me how to drive our boat. And I would just take our brothers back and forth and we would go over, we would surf, we'd come back. But I had to pass by Port Everglades. And so Port Everglades and Fort Lauderdale, I see these cruise ships, these massive ships. I'm like, we're driving by on this small little boat. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, that would be such a neat, like, I wonder how they drive those and where they go. And I think just kind of from there, my fascination with vessels and working offshore and like the love for the water and the beach has just grown, exponentially from there. So that's kind of like the driver. I've always been outgoing. I enjoy a challenge. I think I get bored easy. Entrepreneurial life has always been something that I've been fascinated with. And yeah, just taking risks is also something that I've always, since, being a kid through early adulthood, just, what is the worst that could happen? Let's try it. Worst comes to worst, we fall back, we'll figure it out. And yeah, it's led me to where I am today, which is still, my going through years of working on different vessels, being a part of different large scale offshore projects internationally. I think really all stems from that upbringing of being close to the water. I had a very driven, outspoken, mother that was not afraid to challenge, the rules, and she owned her own air ambulance company, like shortly after moving down to Florida. So it's, just getting in, taking over, like assessing, taking over, see what we can do, has always been just a part of who I am.
Well, I met you in Gold's Gym, the mecca of all gyms, when we first moved here. And I don't know how we formally, it probably just was because it was such a close knit group, I think, working out, and we were all competing. And I just remember the text that you sent me. You're like, how can I get meals delivered to my ship in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And so I think you were ordering them from bodybuilding.com, which I don't know.
It was frozen tilapia and asparagus on repeat. It was horrible.
And you're like, I'm on this boat. I'm trying to get ready for this fitness competition, or it was a bikini competition.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I don't think that, I mean, we were in one location then, and just me and Dawn, and I'm like, I don't know how we could do. I mean, I did research it for you.
Oh yeah,
but
I remember.
So just to fill the audience in, tell me, why were you out in the middle of nowhere ordering bodybuilding.com on a vessel?
Yeah. So always been super active too. I guess I forgot to mention that as a kid. And so then being able to join a sport where it challenges you to, you're only on stage for 10 minutes, but the buildup of discipline, intensity, exercise, discipline. I don't know if I already said that, but, having a focus to get to that point on stage is, it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. And what I was doing in the middle of nowhere was I was working on drilling vessels, so offshore exploratory drilling. So at this point, what the vessels I would be on and I would be driving would be these large vessels that are, over 500 feet long, over, I think ours was like 830 something feet. Driving these internationally. At some points I was in Africa, I was in the Mediterranean, I was down in the Gulf of Mexico, but your workouts don't stop, So we would have helicopters. The only way to really get out to these vessels is to take helicopters out to them. And so I was able to order these like dry, frozen bodybuilding.com tilapia, asparagus, like 40 something pack meals. And it was, that was my focus I usually worked 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. And that would be like my meals supplemented with some of the healthy options I could get from the vessel. But it was really awesome. So we would go internationally. I would drive these large vessels. We'd get to where we would think that there was potential for an oil reserve. And we would hover over, it's dynamic positioning, but we would hover over this area and we would drop down. I'm sure by now everyone has probably seen the Deepwater Horizon movie, but we would drop down this big blowout preventer and then run the riser through there and drill and drill and drill and see if we could potentially hit a reservoir that would become productive. And what we would then do is whether we found one or not, we would cap it and then move on. So we were always kind of the ones going out there to see like, okay, is there anything in this area? Is there anything in this area? So it was really fun. Got to go to some amazing places internationally, some not so amazing places, and meet some really cool people.
How do you even get into that field? I mean, what did you went to school, I'm assuming.
Yep. Yeah.
So what was that major?
Yeah. So I went to Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and that school focuses on, in order to drive these vessels, you have to have a Coast Guard license and you have to work your way up through the licensing program. So it's, third mate, second mate, chief mate, captain. And that all takes time on board a vessel. They call it sea time. So it takes that time to build up and, practical tests that you'd have to pass in order to get on to the next level. And so again, from seeing these large vessels down in Port Everglades, figuring out like, okay, what does it take to do that? And then I saw there's not a ton of maritime schools. There's a couple in New York. There's one in Massachusetts, one in Maine, one in California and Texas. And then that's it. But I went to school with marine transportation and minored in international maritime business. And so from there was able to get myself on board Transocean. But that's just one aspect of driving the vessel. And then there's another aspect of having to learn the dynamic positioning. And it was really cool because I joined in 2009. I joined with Transocean. And then just like 3 years later was sitting as the senior dynamic positioning officer. So the one kind of in charge of the bridge right under the captain. Just a couple of years later, I was like 23 over in Africa, like running the bridge, making insane, like it was just unbelievable. It was really cool. So it was fun.
So when did you meet Jay?
I met Jay was my squad leader. So my husband back then was my squad leader in college. So I met him my freshman year. Actually, this year we're coming up to 20 years of being together.
That's incredible. And so, but you guys did you work on the same boats when you were dating?
Nope.
No, they wouldn't let you.
Never worked on the same boats. There'd be times, I think the longest stint we went apart from each other was 6 months. But sometimes we were on the same schedule. Sometimes we were, offset. But I will say, when you're that young, we were both in the maritime industry. We really built up a relationship based off communication. Like I tell him everything, whether he wants to hear it or not, right? And the same thing, we've got a very good foundation of communication because we couldn't always see each other. And then when we would see each other, we had the house in North Carolina, but like there was one year where I think we spent 2 weeks in North Carolina. We were in Florida. We would go over to Africa. Like we would just travel all over, come back, split up, do our jobs, and then come back. So I think it really helped our relationship to build a really good foundation to have that time apart and not always be on the same schedule. I think we would have killed each other if we were on the same ship because he's an engineer and I'm a techie and we don't always see eye to eye on how to run the vessel. So it's good we were never on the same boat. But I think it was fun. Now that we see each other every single day, we're like, oh.
And I'm sure that this is probably a male dominated field.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I don't go down the whole feminist thing because I always feel like we do our own place, but I'm sure that you have ran into the stereotype.
I've got, and the same thing I think, for me is I want to be treated equal type thing. So prove myself to be like, I am in this crowd, like whether you want it or not, I'm here. So there was one when I first got offshore, the very first vessel I was on, there was a captain that actually left the vessel because he said, I'll never have a woman on my bridge. And I showed up and he left to go on to a different vessel. And his loss, I'm very good at what I do. And I enjoyed what I was doing at that point. But then I would say, there's like on a vessel of 200 people, maybe like 5 of us would be women, But what I really thought was awesome was, you set your intentions and you make it known, like I am here to work. Like I can have fun and play, but there's no crossing any of these lines. Like I'm not here for any of that. I'm not here for any drama. And the bond that I made with a lot of these guys offshore, they became more of a brother than anything else. And I remember traveling internationally, they would hold my bags. They would like make sure I was the first on the bus. There was one instance, we were in Tanzania and we were on a Tanzanian little bus making our way to the airport, and it was pitch black. And the roads that are there, they don't have as great of infrastructure as we do here in the US. So there's like no lights. There's like burning barrels of lights every couple hundred, feet to actually like illuminate where the roadway is. And we're in this traffic jam. The AC isn't working. So we've got our windows. They're like the slider windows. Instead of going up and down, they like slide. So everyone has their windows open because we're just trying to get airing. And we're completely at a standstill. The traffic is stopped. All of a sudden, like I'm sitting, it's a 2-seater, like 2 seats, the aisle and 2 seats. All of a sudden, hands start coming into our bus, they're grabbing the guy's shoulders, they're grabbing bags. They just see like a whole bunch of non-local, like people that are coming through a potential for, like different goods than what they have there. And they're stealing whatever they can out of the window. And I remember the guys just like, I remember being grabbed and being sat like right in the middle of the aisle. And the guys just did like punching hands that were coming through. They're trying to close the windows. It was crazy, but they were always so protective. And I think that was it. Like you made it known that like, hey, I've got a boyfriend on another rig. Like, I don't want, like, I'm not here for any of that. Like, I'm here to work and have fun and no drama. And that's it. And they took it to heart. And it was, for me, I had a great experience with all of them and having that male dominated side. Like I was able to assert myself in a position to where I wasn't negatively affected by it. Just tried to like embrace it and move forward. It didn't prohibit me from taking next steps. I was challenged like a couple of times. I got transferred over to another vessel and one of the guys, thought it was his position that I was taking. We had a difficult conversation just to address like, we don't need to be friends, but we are going to work 6 hours together in this small confined space. So we might as well make it work, And then we ended up being like best friends. He lived down in Stewart for a little bit. So I think it's all, like how you approach it, how you handle it. You can really shape to an extent, what that looks like.
I love that. And I mean, I was me and you connected probably 3 or 4 years ago because we had talked about clean meals again on these ships. And it was really eye-opening when you sent me the map of the oceans and how many rigs are out there at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you estimate, like, these rigs? How many is out there, ships?
Crazy. Oh, boy. I should know this. And now that oil and gas is, like, going crazy again, I think more are getting activated. But easily, like, internationally, 100 to 200, I would say. I'd have to look back. But there's a ton of offshore drilling vessels, whether it's, like, production platforms. I was exploratory drilling. So again, we went and we would see if there was something there. And then after we left, another vessel, the production platform would come and then it would actually like extract and take the oil to then, like a production facility shoreside. So those all have, people on them. And the nice thing is when you're offshore, a lot of times you work 12 hours, you're off for 12 hours, 3 or 4 weeks at a time. You can really get yourself into like, it was like detox for us. You get yourself into this like fitness regime. And if you can just have healthy food, because a lot of times it's like good old Southern cooking. So if you could just have healthy food, then you would be in like the best shape after 4 weeks of working, But it was just like the food was always the toughest thing to combat. Like having healthy preset meals was impossible to come by.
Well, then you took another adventure and you opened, like a fitness for cruise. It wasn't cruise ships, or was it cruise ships?
We did it. Yachts. Yeah. Yep. And that was really cool. So one of my best friends and I, we started Away Fitness, and it was AWEIGH, so like anchors away. And we focused that on commercial vessels, so like tankers or transport vessels. And then we had a luxury division, the yacht division. And that was cool because we were able to travel to Monaco, St. Thomas. I can't remember, but we were able to go to like a bunch of cool places to try and get this to work. And we went to a couple of commercial vessels to try and get this to work too. The same thing, just to provide like a pre-written workout program, how to track that, what to do, what that would look like with your equipment that you have on board. Like meal options for the cooks, like what they could do to have a healthier option for their crew. And that was really cool. Unfortunately, it didn't really take off. The tricky thing on the commercial side is when it comes, these vessels are usually, a company will own the vessel and then they'll charter the vessel out. And so the company that owns the vessel likes to keep things like bare minimum to an extent, And so if you want to increase anything more, then they'll be like, well, let's see if the charterer will pay for that. Right. And so, and the health and wellness side is tricky. I think more companies are starting to embrace it, but still offshore, I feel like we're a couple of years behind on that crew welfare, taking it to the next level on like, well, let's just provide preset meals that people can just come and pull and take out and they're good to go. We don't have to wait for the galley to open to go make whatever Taco Tuesday has to offer. I think it would really benefit. So I think we were just kind of, we just kind of kept getting hit with different battles and barriers. So it was super cool to go after and to try it and don't regret any of it. But yeah, unfortunately, we had to shut that down a couple of years ago. But that was really neat. And I wish somebody should take it on and focus on that because it's needed, So it's just tackling the vessel owners and charters on who could really, Evonne, you should do it. Like make the business case to say like, this is what you need. This is where crew morale and health would come from. But I think it's definitely like a viable solution that needs to be explored more.
I agree. Okay, let me see if I got my timeline because then all of a sudden you and Jay connected for enough time to get pregnant with twins, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep. And that was so funny because like I was 30 and we were like, okay, maybe like when I turn 30, we'll have kids. And so we went down to the Keys and we're like, all right, like maybe now we're okay to have kids. And we go to the Keys for a vacation and we come back and we're pregnant with twins. I'm like, oh my God. And twins don't run in our family. It was a huge surprise. But yeah, it's been a blessing. So that was 6 years ago. But yeah, so we found out we were pregnant with twins. And
the humorist was just saying, we know that you guys are not going to be in the same house long enough, and we're just going to do this one and done.
Exactly. And it was like right before COVID. Jay thankfully was home for the girls being born, but then he had to leave when the girls were 3 weeks old. But yeah, it was crazy. But that was an eye opener. I remember being like with a stenographer, and she was like, "I hope you like bunk beds." And Jay and I just look at each other. Oh my gosh, twins! This is crazy. But
so how was that going in transitioning into mom? Because then obviously you stayed home. You've been traveling all this time,
right?
Spending 2 weeks sounds like at home at one time to go into being a full-time mom.
Yep.
With Jay out, back out at sea.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you during this, so it looked pretty smooth for you, but I'm sure there was bumps.
I think, thankfully, like my attitude is, you are dealt what you can handle, and also no one's going to come save you. Right. Or like, you have to do what you have to do. So Jay he left again when the girls were like 3 weeks old. Thankfully, my parents or his parents, they would take turns rotating through to come visit while Jay was gone. But it was definitely a shocker. But I didn't have one kid prior to this, so all I knew was taking care of 2 kids. And as like a woman, we've got 2 of everything, right? So I'm like, well, I can do this. I can like physically, this is capable for me to handle this on my own. And so we just ran with it, and I would force myself. I told Jay, because it is scary, this, like anytime, even a newborn, like you want to get out, but you're terrified of everything. I'm like, what if the babies start crying? What if they don't take a bottle? Like, do I like whip off my shirt in the middle of nowhere to feed these 2 kids, But I forced myself to not get caught in being home and being afraid. I'm like, well, if this is going to be like a disaster, I'm just going to do it and I'm going to learn from it. And like everybody's had some disaster with kids, I'm sure, but I didn't want to get caught in Jay's gone. I can't go out anymore, And so we would branch out. I'd walk the loop. I'd walk down your house, walk back and forth and just like keep myself to where I could go out and build that comfort. And then the girls are like 3 months old and we're cruising all around the place. We were having a blast. So it definitely gets exhausting. When you do fly solo, when he wasn't here, but then when he came here, it was so grateful that like having a second set of hands, and I would drop them out, like have him want him to focus on the girls and let me have my free time. And then I'd be like 10 minutes into my free time and I'd be like, I wonder what they're doing. So yeah, it was.
I think that's just natural for all moms, where it's like you want to get away, but then as soon as you get away, you're like, okay, what's everyone doing?
Yeah.
I feel like FOMO. Definitely, we have a lot of FOMO, I think, as moms.
Yeah, absolutely. But and then the other tough thing I think to struggle with, I think that a lot of people, face is I enjoy working, right? And I enjoy being able to provide for myself and my family, but myself to say like, if I want to go shop, like I have the money to go do this. I don't need to rely on anyone else. So I was very lucky to be able to take the skill set that I had and transition to a shoreside role that I could work, kind of like the entrepreneurial mindset that I understood these vessels to a T, and the breakdown on a vessel's reliability and their ability to withstand completely blacking out or having a certain type of fault. I understood how to read those designs and how to test those designs. So I was able to write those documents, review those documents from, we would send out auditors, review what the auditors had, and able to submit these reports back to clients like Exxon and Chevron, like working with these large oil majors. I was able to do that kind of on my own terms with the girls. So it was like the joy of them balancing like motherhood, but still having the identity to like, okay, like I can be a mom. I can also, like help still provide for this family. So it's not all weighing on Jay to think that, like this is what he needs to do and I need him to do this. So that was really cool too. And I think it's thankfully like this day and age where we're able to have technology to do stuff like that.
And then if your plate wasn't full enough, you went and got a real estate license.
Yes. Well, that is like financial discipline. I think realtors probably hate hearing this, but I love looking at houses and like buying and selling houses from like an investment standpoint. So then I was like, why would I pay someone, 1 to 3% to handle this transaction? I deal with contracts for vessels all the time. I can handle negotiating a contract. And like once my real estate license, it maybe was like $1,200 to get. But when you're looking at various ranges of homes, 1 to 3% is way more than $1,200, right? So, so I was able to, buy and sell our Virginia house. I bought this house and save anywhere, you never know what you can agree on with a realtor represent you. But, if a realtor was asking 2%, like that's that much right off the bat that you can put in off the off the price of your house. I just love that whole aspect of it. Like this seems easy enough to do, something that I can learn and take on, and then it will benefit us, being able to take that off the price of our homes. So,
so do you actively like show homes at the moment? You do, don't you?
Actively what?
Show homes. Do you actively sell other homes too?
So taking like a little, I am, but just to like very few people. Like right now it's friends, it's family. What I'm doing right now, I'm love and like it does consume a fair amount of time. And when I do help someone with real estate, I really try to like focus and hone in, and like we have so much fun with it. We drive around, get coffees, like get stuff to eat. It's more of like I want to be able to dedicate the true time to that person. And if it's someone I've never met before, like I'm not ready to provide that time to someone right now. But if it's like my brother and I can say, hey, come on in, we can go look at this, then I don't feel as bad. So to very few right now, I am helping to buy and sell. But right now the focus is kind of what I'm doing with SpaceX.
And you guys have 2 rental properties?
So we just sold our Virginia one. That would have been like our long-term rental one, but we still have our Vermont one, which is this year it's going crazy. Thankfully, snow in the Northeast is actually it was beating out the West Coast. I haven't looked like the last 2 weeks to see who's in the lead, but our house is in Jay Peak. So it's like almost Canada. So it's just had a phenomenal season. And thankfully, they call Jay Peak a 4 seasons resort. And so that's the house that we have up there is kind of perched on this cliff overlooking the Trout River about like 7 minutes from J Peak. So we really found this house that can embrace that 4 seasons. So we do profit the most during the winter, but then we've got the summer and the fall for leaf peeping that also helps supplement the income.
I love that. And so, okay, so you are back home, like you work from home now, right? No more traveling, or do you still go out?
No, I
In
don't
the
go
water?
offshore anymore. Nope, I don't go offshore. But now I work with SpaceX. And so I do go into our SpaceX office, which is at Port Canaveral. So I go into Port Canaveral and we'll run the vessels that we use for SpaceX now. So I'm going in. It is the coolest, craziest company I've ever worked for. So I actually love going into work. The people are phenomenal. The things that we do and the challenges that we face and the way that we overcome these challenges is crazy. It is awesome. The empowerment that you get working at this company is phenomenal. So I do go into the office, flexible on hours and schedule, which is really nice. Sometimes we need to be turned on, and we had a situation this weekend where we needed to be turned on, but for the most part, very happy where we are now. And this is something that's why right now I'm everything else can go on pause for a little bit, because I have this balance to where this is a cool, challenging job and it's got the flexibility that I need. And it's been awesome.
And then the girls are in first grade?
Almost. So they're kindergarten now, and then they'll go to first grade. Yeah. Yep. Which is so.
And does Jay still travel?
Jay travels not as much anymore. So he handles the offshore. His title is Maritime Specialist, which I always tease him. I'm like, you're the specialist. But so he's building a vessel for offshore wind program that's in Virginia right now. So he sometimes has to go to Virginia, but he gets to work from home, which is awesome. He doesn't have to travel so much anymore, which is also great.
All right. So tell me the craziest story of being out on a rig.
Oh, out on the rig. Okay. Yeah. I feel like they all center around Africa, but so when we were working, I think everyone heard of Captain Phillips and the piracy when he was the pirates came on board and took him off in the lifeboat. Actually, we knew Captain Phillips super well. It's a close family friend of Jay's. Captain Phillips was actually at our wedding. So when that was all unfolding, that was unbelievable. And then I find myself in my vessel in the same exact location 2 years later. So the anti-piracy stuff that we had on board our vessel, I drove the vessel from Trinidad to Cape Town, and then up to Mozambique, Tanzania. And during our transit from Trinidad to Cape Town, we had people on board that were installing RPG-proof shutters. We had barbed wire all around our decks. And so when we got up to Tanzania, we had the RPG-proof shutters installed. We had barbed wires all around our deck. We had guard boats that would have people on board the vessel with their guns hanging out, just circling our vessel while we were looking for oil in this area. So I think I probably have some crazy stories, but that's the first one that comes to mind. I remember sitting on the bridge, and again, I was 23, and I'm like, am I making the proper life choices right now?
Did anybody ever come on board?
No, please. It would be crazy if you made it through all that, but then you come on a drill ship with 200 rednecks, Southern Louisiana guys on board. Good luck.
What do you think was the most rewarding?
Obviously being a parent, but I think I love being the mother to my girls, and that is so much fun. So hearing mom 100 times a day, I try to tell Jay I wanted this and I am happy for this, but I wish they also learned, Dad, your father is right here too. But I think right now being able to be where I am with SpaceX is really neat, because I am surrounded by some of the smartest people I've ever met, some of the top achieving people in various industries that have come into SpaceX where we are right now, and to be kind of a point to be able to say, we're not going to do it this way. I think we should do this way, and have your voice be heard and acted on right now is like having these moments to say, yeah, I think you're right. Go with it and run with it. This is the moment now that I think is just being able to have that opportunity to be like, hey, your experience and like the confidence that you have in this industry, to have that be heard and be in a position to where you can make these calls and be a part of this team has been awesome, and I can't say too much, but even like what we had to do this weekend, everything that we have coming up, it's just so cool to be a part of it. And then you walk out, like here, I can see from our backyard, I can see all these rocket launches. So to go through, know everything that's going on in the background, know that you overcame everything, and then walk outside and see the rocket, you're like, yeah, yes. So I think like this is the coolest, like most satisfying I think I've been in any position that I've held.
So tell me, obviously parenting twins, what do you think? Is there, I guess, two-part question. Is there something that your mom told you that you're like, I will never do that as a mom, and you have recently found yourself doing it? Or is it opposite? Is there something that you've totally or your best parenting advice with twins?
Oh, yeah, I'll have to think. My mother cussed a lot, and I feel like I'm not falling too far from the tree, but trying to reel it back in. I think my best parenting advice for twins, and I think any mom is, especially first-time mom, your first time having kids and meeting these like milestones that everyone says are milestones, to give yourself that grace that every kid really does develop at a different pace. And I remember like the girls would be 3 months old and weren't rolling over or whatever was supposed to be at like the 3-month milestone, right? And I remember being so worried and trying to like help them turn or like help them sit up. And like it would weigh on you to be like, well, they're supposed to do this. They're supposed to be at this point. And then all of a sudden they're like doing 360s all down the hallway, So it's that balance of giving yourself grace, the kids grace, that each one will develop at a different time. And I think that one of our daughters has a hearing impairment, right? So she was born with severe hearing loss and has a cochlear in one ear and a hearing aid in the other ear. And so like at first I was in denial. I'm like, she doesn't have a hearing impairment, like, because they told us at 6 months that she needs hearing aids. And I'm like, no, like, that's not right. And it was just like this barrier, like, I don't even know what it was, but I was like, that can't be right. And then took that into like, well, like, how did that happen? Like, what did I do? What could I have done different in the pregnancy? But again, I had twins and Airly can hear just fine. And Brooke has this going for her. So it's just the balance of like doing everything that you can do, but then giving yourself grace that like some things are completely out of your control. And I think once I was able to accept that, even now I'm still not always accepting that, but like Jay helps me with it, just that the kids will have to, learn at different paces in life. They will excel at different things at different times in life. And it's tough for me to see it with twins because I'll see, like, they'll just go like, yeah, I've got this direct comparison. And it's tough to be like, why is she reading so well and she's not? And then it'll flip and I'll be like, why doesn't she know how to count to 100 yet? And she does, but they each just learn and develop all at their own pace. And again, if you can just understanding that, like, I'm doing everything that I can, Jay's doing everything that he can, and we're providing the best that we can, things come with time, I know it'll work itself out. It has anyway. So that's like if I were to, we don't want to, but if I were to have another kid, I think that would be the thing, is like try to be a little less focused on like having to meet these milestones on this. That was tough for me.
Is there a second pregnancy coming?
No, gosh. Oh my
You
God.
said, yeah. I was like,
No,
you haven't called me something.
no. I know. I'm terrified that we'll have twins again and we'll go from like 2 to 4. Probably.
I think one of the cutest stories that you told me about Brooke was I thought it was Target.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But she went into Target. The one thing Target, I love Target, but they kind of got off pace there for a minute. But the one thing that they did was they had someone in their ad campaign with hearing aids. And she said, look, Mom.
Oh my God. Yeah. Even thinking about it makes me cry. Cause it's not like you never think about, like, I would have probably looked at the kid and maybe, like looked at the advertisement and may have like glanced by it. But and the kids, you're surprised that they were even paying attention. They're like running through all the aisles. And then she stopped and she said, he's like me. And that was so huge to see that like, wow, that really matters. And that mattered to, I think she was probably like 4 at that time, to a 4-year-old, to see that like, yes, like that totally normal. Like you're not the only one. Cause she does say that she'll rip out her hearing aid and her cochlear and she'll be like, Airly doesn't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Why do I have to wear this to hear? And like, she'll have meltdowns over it. And it's like, everybody is different. Everybody's body is different. People are born in all these different ways. And so to actually see that in a platform such as Target that we go to, often for her to see that and be like, yes, normal, like this is me. And it's something that we see often. And thankfully now with technology, we are seeing cochlears a lot more often. We're seeing kids that have hearing aids a lot more often. And we do always, like try to point it out. Brooke will point it out to us. So, so that was really huge for her to see that, and a huge moment for me to be like, this really does matter to her,
Yeah.
So
that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So all the women out there, like you've done, I don't know, sum it up. You have been offshore at the age of 23. You married your, I guess, soulmate, not guess. I was trying to think of a something way or something, anchor or something, your anchor, I guess, of your husband, twins, realtor, entrepreneur, like you have it all together. And I know I'm looking from the outside, but obviously I'm not there day to day, but what is like, give me like what I know you said before, like it's only what you can handle, right? But there's got to be something that, like, what do you tell your daughters if they're going to go into this field that's man dominated, or if they're going to go into or anything else? Like, what's something that inspire all the other women out there who are thinking?
I think the saying that I always say to the girls is like, you go, girlfriend, and like embrace being a woman. And like, we are different, right? Like we are different. But to me, that's like, that is empowering. And I think, to use that as, to push through, push ahead. Like, I don't see myself any different than like any of the guys that I work with. Like we're a team, we're together. Like I always just say, like, you go, girlfriend, go for it, push for it. You've got the same, if you're going through worried about like the risk that could take, or the risk of going into a male dominated industry, just walk into it like you own it. I belong here. And that's, I think if you come in with that confidence, even if it's fake for a little bit, like just walk in with it. Like, I belong here. Like, and I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm not scared. I deserve this. I've worked for this. And this is where I belong. And right now I'm in a super male dominated field, but I walk in and I belong here. I have the experience. I have the knowledge. I put the time in, and this is where I belong. And
think you were the same at 23 as you are now with that? Or did you always go in at 23 confident?
I think I went in unknowingly confident. I think actually a driver to that, I think, is growing up with brothers helps. Cause I can joke. I guess like the men's humor sometimes is like, I've been around it, so I understand.
Their DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and what's really funny, what would always kill me was like, the guys are worse than like high school girls on the bridge. If you get like a bunch of men together, the gossip, the drama, I was like, I'm going to excuse myself because you guys are too much. Like, so I think it was, just knowing where you stand and knowing your value and your beliefs and like not afraid to hold true to who you are and still having kind of like a good sense of humor with things, I think is what really helped with me. So it was maybe this unknowing confidence of walking into a situation that I've kind of grown up in and be a part of that. Like I'm just with another set of guys. Like I'm not here for anything else except like I'm going to get the job done, and it'd be great if we could all be friends. But if not, like that's fine. Okay. Like I've got what I need to do, and I'm going to get it done. It'd be great if you can help. We work towards the same goal. But if not, like you're not going to interrupt where I'm going. So, yeah.
I tell my customers the same thing with that is like, you shouldn't even have to open your mouth.
Yeah.
Like you should walk in with the presence of the confidence. And again, if you're still faking it when you walk in the room, like no one knows that. Only what you tell yourself. Yeah. So I'm like, go in and own it.
And the other thing I think is like, as you grow up and you meet these people that are in these like high positions or like working for these like large companies, you're like, you and I are so similar on so many levels. They're like, you're a lot dumber than I thought you were. Like, how did you get that position? Like, I don't even know. So like, I think once you meet a bunch of different people in a bunch of different positions through companies, then you're like, whoa, like, but the way that someone can present themselves or like assert themselves or take that one chance that everyone else was afraid to do, that just catapulted you into this, So I think it is like, don't be afraid of who you are. And that's it. The confidence that you belong there. No one's going to question it, just, I think you just nailed it. Walking into the room, like your hands could be shaking, your heart could be pounding, but like what makes that other person across the table any better than who you are, And I think too, as a woman, and then especially as you become a mother and like seeing how men get so frustrated with kids, I'm like, no, like you have a crisis scenario. Let me step in.
Yeah, that's why we had the job as moms.
Exactly.
I feel like.
Yep. To be able to like, triage and like multitask, but still stay focused on the end goal, I think is definitely a powerful attribute to women. So,
well, I love you. And if you're still listening to this at the end, grab you a good friend that you don't have to text or call in months, maybe years. And you can definitely pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
I love you. I'm super proud of you.
Yeah, same with you. So awesome. So proud of you guys. I love everything that you guys have become. It's so amazing. I love it. And thank you for having me on too.
Without loyal customers like all of you. So
we love it. Thanks, Evonne. Awesome. Well, I appreciate this. This has been the best like hour of my whole couple of years. I love this.